So I've worked with game engines for years. In the beginning of my career at several startups, I made especially virtual reality games with them. I worked with Unreal Engine, I worked with Unity, I did some time with Godot, and after that I actually became a web developer. And recently I was thinking to myself like, what is a game engine and what makes a game engine? So this actually sparked my interest because it's like an endless pot of functionality. I don't know if you ever looked at a game engine, but it has scripting, it has 3D modeling, it has sound, there's all of these things and they all have to work together. And I'm here to find out what it actually is, and I'm gonna build one myself. So I'm gonna bring you along with me. So buckle up. In about 2 weeks, there will be this game jam. It's called Gamdev.js, and it's basically a game jam, but the goal is that you make a game with JavaScript and that it runs in your browser. And this actually seemed quite interesting too. I would have about like 2 weeks to complete the jam. So on the 13th of April, they will tell me what the theme of the game jam will be. And the part that I'm really interested in is the open source challenge by GitHub. So I'm gonna give myself a few days to build a really basic game engine. It will not be possible to make a really good game with it. So that's why I actually want to join the open source challenge by GitHub. I want to show them like, hey, I made this small game. I know it's not the greatest, but it is open source and I actually built a whole engine around it myself. So that's the goal, at least. Before we dive into that, we should actually have a look at like what is a game engine, because I'm actually not even sure about that myself. I think there are two parts to a game engine that make it a really good engine, because you might be familiar with something like Unity or engine. So let's look at the Unity UI. So let's look up some images. We make this bigger. Let's do no. If we take a look at that, so Unity is actually a game engine, and you when you use an engine like this, you usually also have an editor for that engine. So from my understanding, this would mostly be the editor, so you can put a scene together. Wait, let me actually check if my mouse is being recorded. Yes, I think it is. So on the left here, you have an editor for your scene, so you can actually put game objects in there, you can put text in the scene, so this will make it really easy to handle everything. And then on the bottom, you have things like inserting textures or 3D models, or have a variety of assets that you can use in there. And on the right, whenever you select an object in the scene like this, you usually have a lot of things that you can edit. So in here, let's see, so this is a canvas. So this is probably used to do some text rendering on screen, so you have like a UI for the player. And you can do all of these things without actually touching any code. So I think the part around this, that's what you would call the editor. So let's see. So we would have something like this, and let's make some blocks around it. So this would be an editor. So an editor, the only thing it would do for me, because I want to make like a web game engine, it will allow me to edit all kinds of things that are in this scene, will allow me to change properties of things, and then I probably have to serialize them to like something of a JSON probably, since we're making a website. So on one end, we have to make a game editor, basically. But then what is an engine? I was thinking about this actually a lot, because so far, when all the times when I use things like Unity or Unreal Engine or Godot, like I wasn't actually sure what the engine part was, because it feels like a complete package to have like the editor and the engine and the scripting and all those kind of things. So I think what the engine for me would be is that it, from the previous example, so the output of this editor, which is just a JSON file with configuration, would actually be the starting point of an engine. So this would be the starting point of an engine. So let's say that this is the engine. And this JSON can have all kinds of things. So it could say like how many trees there are, or if there are sounds of birds. What else could it have? UI element. So you can basically kind of see this as the starting point of the engine, and then the engine kind of it takes this JSON, puts it into the engine, and takes it as starting point. Well, then whenever we have objects in here, so let's say we have a bird, and that bird also has a 3D model. It has sound. What else could it have? Maybe if it's a player controlled bird, it will have like a script. So if I press things like W, A, S, D, it will move. So these are all kinds of things that we will configure for it. And then when we give that bird to the engine, it will actually start rendering the bird. And am I gonna do an attempt to draw a bird? Let's, oh, this is gonna look horrible. Okay, not too bad, actually. Let's give it as well. And so this bird will be in the engine. It will have a sound, because we like a sound thing. So it will be like making bird sounds. It will actually look like a bird, because that's what the 3D model is over here. But the engine takes care of what's gonna happen next. So whenever so in an engine, you usually have things that happen inside a render loop. So we could actually subscribe to things like on start, for example. It has to do some stuff. So the engine will take care of that. Like every object in the scene can subscribe to like an on start event. And then maybe on start, we actually wanted to play a sound like, hey, like it's doing some kind of whistle. But it could also be that the engine has some script, some functionality in there, so that you can subscribe to an on update event. And that on update event will happen every tick. So basically every frame that's being generated. And so on this on update, we could actually do, so this is just some pseudo code. So really easy. So if pressed, oh man, I can't write, pressed W, then actually change the position .x of the bird and increase it by 5. So this is just some really simple code, but our engine actually allows us to build a script that will listen to an on update, and it will get like a tick event, and then every time when the user holds W, the bird actually flies forward. So these are some things that the engine could do. So I already made a starting point. I call this a deck builder game engine now, as you can see. That was just initially I was thinking to make like a roguelike deck builder engine. So it would be really easy to kind of add cards and doing stuff like that. I'm not really sure yet if I'm gonna continue doing that, but it's the project name for now. And in this project, let's make it a bit larger. We have 2 folders. So you have apps and you have packages, and the apps will for now be just an example app. So this hopefully will be the game for the game engine that I'm gonna send in. And then the other folder is this packages folder. And in there, I made 3 packages so far. So I have one of the core, and core is basically the engine itself. I have one for editor. So this is what we talked about, like this would be the UI that you can edit the scene. And I need like a editor server, because, so this editor is just a website. So let's start it up. So the way that you would start this is actually just really simple. You would just run a command like pnpm-dev, will open it up, open the website for you. And this is what the editor looks like right now. So we have a scene on the left with the items that you can render in the viewport. We have a viewport which actually contains the engine. So this is the part that actually renders sprites and things on the screen to see. And we have an inspector. And the inspector will allow you to edit items in the scene. So this is just a work in progress, but when I select a scene item, then on the right, you see the position of that item. I cannot edit it yet, so I'm gonna add that. But this is basically the idea right now. And this is gonna have a lot of more properties that you can change. But the thing is, this is a website, and websites are not allowed to change the file system. So for that, I have an extra folder, and that folder is called editor server. So this is basically gonna be like a little backend server that you run on the background of this editor. So whenever I make a change in this scene, it should send it to the server, and that server should write it in a JSON file. So this thing is really dumb at the moment. It doesn't do anything yet. I can start it up. Let me show you. So it's just a Node.js server for now. It doesn't do a lot. When I go to this website though, it says JSON has been written. All it does is it goes to the root of the website. It creates a JSON object with message hello world, and it writes it to the system, which results in this output.json. This was just for me to test, like, okay, how easy is it to do something like this? But this is probably gonna change a lot, and this is just a starting point. For the game engine, what might be interesting is, so this is the initialization of the game engine. And I was actually thinking, like, do I want to make everything from scratch? But I'm not going to do that, because the game engine is already really big, and I will never be finished when I do something like that. So I use PixiJS, and if you're not familiar with it, it's this one. I was just looking up some 2D drawing libraries, and yeah, let's see. Let's open an example. They can do stuff like this, and this just helps. Like, it already contains things like load in assets, adding them to the canvas, because if you don't know, if you open something like this is basically just an HTML canvas. So you cannot really select these objects individually. So another thing that I was playing around with a little bit is, so this viewport needs to update whenever I change something in the editor. So I'm using React for the editor, and whenever I click on an item right now, you can see the spaceship move like this. And this is something that I'm working on right now, because whenever I change the positioning of this item, it should actually move at the same time. Maybe I can show some of the code for that. It is really simple at the moment. Let's remove this to the container, and the container is basically what's inside of this viewport div. We add a child, we add the canvas to the DOM, and then every time when we make a change to the items in the scene, we change the positioning of the sprite. And this is just me doing some testing. So I'm gonna continue on this, and that's it for now. So this was it for now. I'm actually gonna work some more on the code. I am planning to bring some new functionality where actually when I make changes into the scene, I actually want you to see the changes in the viewport itself. So that's my next goal. And then after that, I probably want to serialize them so that it's actually saved. Yeah, if you enjoyed this type of content, let me know. It's a bit of like a raw edit of what I'm trying to do here. I want to just let you experience a little bit of what the experience is of going through all of these steps. And but I really enjoyed making it. So have a nice day.